Here are a list of reasons why I think the Blackberry Q10 is a very practical and good communications device. Number 1. This device has a removable battery, which is now becoming more and more rare a feature in smartphones. So what does this mean? You can take the battery out, so if this battery for some reason starts to malfunction or does not charge well, then what can you do? You can just pop it out, buy a new battery and put it in, and you've got a working phone again. Now compare this to a situation where you have a phone with a non-removable battery. If the battery malfunctions or doesn't charge well, you have to take the whole phone to the manufacturer or to a repair shop to fix it. And so you'll be out of use of the phone for a few days, or even worse. So I would much prefer having a removable battery. If this stops working, you simply pop it out and buy a new battery and put it in. It's simple and easy. Now another reason why I like removable batteries is that I can always bring this spare battery out with me. It's very small. And if this battery runs out of juice, I just take it out and pop in this new one. Now compare that to the situation where you have a phone with no removable battery. It's stuck in the phone. What would you have to do? Well, you can still take out spare batteries using an external battery pack. But it might be very large in size compared to your phone. It might even be larger than your phone. So it's really a matter of your personal choice. Would you rather have to bring a large external battery pack with you all the time as a spare, or would you rather have a phone with a removable battery, where bringing an extra battery means bringing something along this size? It's really a matter of your own personal judgment, but I would prefer having a removable battery. It's just more convenient and it makes more sense. Reason number 2. The size. The Blackberry Q10 is relatively small compared to many smartphones that you get nowadays. Here's a comparison. Here's the LG G3. You can see immediately that the size of the screen on the Q10 is much smaller, and the size of the whole body is much smaller than this LG G3. Now, as a media device or for looking at websites, it's probably more convenient to have and use this G3. But as a communications device, that is in making calls or even just writing emails and reading emails, actually the Blackberry Q10 is much better because it's easier to hold. The size of the phone is smaller, so it's just easier to hold in your hand. Again, this might depend on the size of your hands or your own personal preferences, but in my opinion, the Q10 is the right size for a communications device, meaning a device used for phone calls and for emails and WhatsApp messages or text messages. It's just more comfortable to hold. Now here's the second thing. A third reason why I think the Blackberry Q10 is an excellent and practical communications device is that it is a phone which does not slip out of your hands easily. It doesn't slip out of your hands easily, partly because of the size of the phone. It's the right size, also the thickness of the phone. It doesn't try to be a thin phone, which is what I see a lot of phone manufacturers trying to do. They try to make their phones thin and make that a selling point. But actually, thin phones are not as easy to hold. Something like this, which has some thickness to it and maybe a bit of heaviness to it, some weight to it, is actually easier to hold in your hand. So the fact that this phone is thick, I think, is an advantage and not a disadvantage. It's easier to hold in your hand. Remember, this is a phone. You have to hold it in your hands. It's not just for looking at videos and movies and looking at websites. It's also used as a phone. So this is another reason. And the texture of the back of this device is not slippery. It has some kind of texture and stickiness to it almost. So I've never had this fall out of my hands. It's excellent. And for all these reasons, you can see that on this phone I don't use a kind of protective cover on it. And for a lot of phones, I have to use a protective cover because otherwise the phone is too slippery and it's in danger of falling out of my hands. Whereas for this phone, it's designed perfectly, hardware-wise, so it will not slip out of my hands even without any cover on it. And I think without a cover makes the phone look better. Every time you put a kind of cover on the phone or a protector on the phone, I'm not talking about the sticker that's on the screen, that's fine, but I'm talking about some kind of plastic cover or leather cover on the phone. Once you do that, it kind of ruins the look of the phone and the feel of it. So the Q10 is great because the way it's designed, you don't need to use any kind of protector or cover on it apart from maybe the screen sticker. And so it just, you can use it the way it was designed to be used without any cover. And that, I think, is another reason why it's a great phone. You don't need any cover or protector and it won't slip out of your hands. Now, reason number 4 why I think the Blackberry Q10 is a great communications device is the call quality. A lot of people forget the fact that smartphones are also phones that you use for making calls. Now, I've used a lot of devices. I've used Android phones, Windows phones, and I haven't used iPhones before, so I can't say anything about that. But between all those phones that I've tried, the Blackberry has the best call quality. The earpiece is excellent. You can hear people's voices very clearly, and the reception is great. Although on the issue of reception, it of course depends on also what kind of mobile network you use and the coverage and whether you're in a blind spot. But all other things being equal, I get the best call quality when I use a Blackberry. So that is a very big plus. And it's very important. If you want to make calls and hear people clearly and have a call quality that is comparable to a landline, then you have to use a Blackberry. Now, reason number 5 why I think it's a great communications device is the physical keyboard. Now, a lot of people say it's no big deal, but you really have to use it yourself for an extended period to appreciate how good this keyboard is. And the people, I mean, a lot of people say that using a virtual keyboard is fine. And yes, you can live with a virtual keyboard, but really, trust me, if you've tried this physical keyboard, there's no going back. I mean, I'll draw an analogy. It's like using a mechanical keyboard for your PC. The tactile feel and the sound of it is just excellent. It's like comparing a mechanical keyboard to a really cheap plasticky keyboard which has no feel to it. I mean, you can get away and survive and still use a cheap plasticky keyboard, but the feel of a mechanical keyboard is so much better. And that kind of difference is the same when you compare the physical keyboard of a Blackberry to a virtual keyboard on almost any phone. It's just so much better. You make fewer mistakes, you can type faster, and it just feels better. Now, a lot of people complain saying that this physical keyboard is very small. The whole phone is small, the keyboard is small, the keys are too close together. But I think they've got it. They don't really see the benefits of it properly. They haven't tried it. Now, if you actually use this phone and look at it closely, you'll see that, yes, the keys are close together, but if you compare it to a virtual keyboard, the keys on a virtual keyboard are also very close together. So it's not really a huge disadvantage. I mean, the keys on a virtual keyboard are also close together, and people are fine with that. And the fact that the keys on this physical keyboard are close together is actually fine, because keys on a physical keyboard are easier to type on. So even though they're as close, or maybe a little bit closer together than a virtual keyboard, it is still easy to type on. I can feel the keys. I can easily type and distinguish between the keys, even though they're next to each other, right next to each other, and very close in proximity, because of the fact that they are physical. And if you look closely at the keys, you can see the design of them. They're not flat keys. You can see that they're slightly, there's a slight kind of gradient, and it pops up at one end. So this kind of design, again, makes it very easy for your fingers to feel between the different keys that are right next to each other. So the fact that they're close in proximity does not make it difficult to type on. It's physical, and it has this kind of raised gradient, so it's very easy to distinguish between the keys that are right next to each other. And I'll just give you a kind of demo of it, how easy it is to type. And so I'll say something, hello world. How are you doing? Oops. And let's see what else. Blackberry rocks. It just feels very good, and it's very easy to type on. You get a physical kind of feedback when you type on these keys. So that is another reason why I think the Blackberry Q10 is a great phone. Now, on some of the disadvantages, I have to mention these because to make this a balanced kind of view of the phone. Disadvantage as a purely, I'm talking about as a communications device, is the app support. I have to mention this. And I'm not talking about apps like, I don't know, like like maps, or I don't know, movie, cinema apps. I'm not talking about those apps. I'm only talking about communications apps. Now, which, I mean, as much as I like the BlackBerry and I would like to use BlackBerry Messenger, everyone uses WhatsApp. And some other people use Line or WeChat or whatever. And now, as a communications device, you have to have a device that supports these communications apps, these instant messaging apps. Now, at the moment, the BlackBerry does support WhatsApp. It has a native WhatsApp app, so it fulfills my requirements for now. But as of 2016, according to an announcement by the WhatsApp company on their website, they're going to stop all support for WhatsApp on the BlackBerry platform. And that is a huge hit for BlackBerry users. if they stop supporting WhatsApp, then we won't be able to use WhatsApp on our Blackberries. Maybe we can like use a workaround, like a Android version of the WhatsApp messenger on some kind of APK file. Maybe we can do that, but it's very inconvenient, and I don't really like the idea of using Android APKs on BlackBerry. That's just my personal opinion. I only like to use native BlackBerry apps. So if they stop supporting it, then the BlackBerry stops becoming a great communications device, because the fact is a lot of people use WhatsApp, and if I have to ask them to install BlackBerry Messenger just so they can message me, or if I tell them, oh, you can't WhatsApp me, you have to send me a text message, that's highly inconvenient, because people are unlikely to do that. They'll just say, why don't you install WhatsApp? So that's one huge disadvantage starting from the end of 2016. WhatsApp will not be supported on BlackBerry anymore. And I would hope that WhatsApp would change their mind about this, because a lot of people still use BlackBerry. It is still a great communications device. But if you stop supporting WhatsApp on BlackBerry, you're killing off that platform, and you're removing a great device from the market. And apart from WhatsApp, I know that in some regions a lot of people like using Line chat, and unfortunately Line chat does not appear to be supported on the Q10. I tried looking for it on the BlackBerry World and I couldn't find it, and I also tried looking for Line on the internet, and apparently it is not supported on the Q10, so I can't even install Line on this device. So for people in regions such as Taiwan, where a lot of people use Line, that's a deal breaker. And WeChat, well, I found that WeChat is supported on the BlackBerry Q10, but the reviews for WeChat on BlackBerry Q10 are not that great if you actually read them. So that is might be a deal breaker if you live in a region where WeChat is the main kind of platform for instant messaging. And for QQ, I haven't really checked that out, but yeah, that's something you'd have to check if you live in a region where the main messaging kind of platform is QQ. It may or may not be supported on BlackBerry, and whether the support is actually great, well, that's something you'd have to check up as well. So as a communications device, I think that the app support is actually a very huge disadvantage, because there are a lot of apps out there made by third parties for instant messaging that are used by a lot of people. And so the fact that the BlackBerry does not have great third-party app support is a huge disadvantage, because of the problems that you have with support for WhatsApp, Line chat, WeChat, and I don't know about QQ. So those are my views, my personal views, and if you have any opinions, please feel free to leave a message in the comments section below.